Welcome to my channel, AFRI.NATION Movie. In today's video, we will be enjoying action thriller film, entitled SILVERSTONE Siege. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The film begins with the three revolutionaries named Calvin Khumalo, Aldo Erasmus, and Mbali Terra Mabunda barging into a bank and shooting blanks in the air. Everyone is told to kneel on the ground by Calvin. He further underlines that it is not a heist and that if everyone cooperates, they will be able to return home safely. Their goal is much broader than making quick money. They are only three of the freedom warriors that are up in arms against the racist political system in their own nation. The white minority had left them with no choice but to resort to violence. Their main purpose is to make the country ungovernable. The order from their superiors is to sabotage key locations in the capital, such as the oil firm that provides the South African Defence Force with fuel. Their strategy is to take the oil and then plant explosives in as many fuel tanks as possible. They position their vehicle near the target location and wait for the signal from their insider, who is intended to drive the truck. They need him to have access to the gate. They hear on the radio that their sabotage acts are harming thousands of houses in the country's major cities. The government is feeling the effects of the rebellion. That is their mission. Captain Johan Langerman, who is carefully positioned a few yards away, is watching their every move with his operatives. Johan informs Schumann that the violence has ceased. He is certain that the militants will be eliminated at any moment. Calvin gets out of the car to inspect the surroundings. He can feel that something is wrong. He warns his crew to be careful. A fuel tanker arrives just as they are about to leave. They expect that it's driven by one of their men. Calvin informs them that the driver is not their man. Because the team's safety is now compromised, they decide to cancel the mission. They leave the area right away. As their vehicle leaves, police cars start chasing them until they are able to split from them after the authorities are blocked by a vegetable truck. Johan hits their vehicle's rear tire, forcing them to rush to a taxi garage. The security guard starts shooting at them. In a panic, the driver slams the car into a wall. The driver is dead. As the guard moves in, Calvin smacks him in the back of his head. The team then runs away and heads towards a tunnel. The authorities have located the three freedom fighters. Calvin, who is having trouble breathing while they are being chased on foot, searches for his inhaler. What he doesn't know is that Captain Johan recovered it earlier from the taxi garage. As Aldo returns to help Calvin, Mbali grabs a gun and starts shooting at the authorities in an attempt to slow them down. They then keep running for safety. After being surrounded at a shopping center, they engage in gunfight before escaping once more. This time, they are cornered with no way out. All roads are blocked, and a chopper is following them around. As they are backing out, they spot a door open and people exiting. They enter without realizing they are entering a bank with other civilian customers. Captain Johan informs his team that this is now a hostage situation. Calvin indicates for everyone to get down on the ground. The bank manager tries to contact the authorities, but Calvin notices him. Calvin then forces him to kneel while the manager begs Calvin not to shoot. Calvin also emphasizes that if everyone keeps calm and cooperative, they will get home safely. Calvin checks for the remaining staff in the bank. He comes across Christine, the bank supervisor. She confirms that the only way out is through the front door. There is no other exit. Mbali demands an answer as to how their plans went south. Aldo believes that someone in high command sold them off. Calvin is also concerned how Captain Johan appears to know their mission. This mission is meant to be top secret. They are all shocked by how it was discovered. Captain Johan begins to negotiate from the outside using a megaphone. He names the three and requests that they surrender calmly because the entire area is surrounded by authorities. Later, Calvin and Johan are able to speak on the phone. This time, they are cornered with no way out. All roads are blocked, and the officer admits to having been monitoring Calvin and his crew for months. Calvin requests an unarmed helicopter pilot. He also informs the officer that one of the hostages is an American, and he is flying with them. Calvin requires the helicopter within 20 minutes. The demand is non-negotiable. A helicopter is waiting for the freedom fighters outside the bank. Calvin promises Aldo that they will get out of this situation and Aldo will have the chance to hold his baby. His wife is currently expecting a child. Calvin speaks to the hostages and apologizes for the mess. He approaches the black American passenger and informs him that he will be flying with them. The American insists on staying, claiming that he is black. Calvin chooses the bank manager instead before leaving the bank to make it more convincing that they are true with an American. When they reach the helicopter, the pilot grabs a gun from his seat. Calvin is able to control the pilot and force him to exit the helicopter. The hostage tries to flee, but he is caught. Calvin chooses to go back in and take the pilot with them because he believes it is unsafe to be out in the open. Calvin also discovers that the pilot is wired. Mbali drags the pilot to the bathroom to force him to reveal the identity of the informant, but he claims that he is only a pilot. After the wiretap is revealed, Brigadier Hans and his soldiers arrive while Johann and Schumann are preparing their next course of action. He tells Johann that the Prime Minister, known as the Big Crocodile, wants to speak with him about the hostage-related decisions he has made. Before leaving, Brigadier Hans hands over the bank manifest and informs Johann and Schumann that Christine is the Justice Minister's daughter. Calvin is at peace now that they are not getting out of the bank alive. He advises turning their circumstance into a movement. He requests to talk with Johann in person outside the door. Calvin demands for the release of Nelson Mandela, an anti-apartheid activist now imprisoned. He wishes to have all allegations against Mandela dropped. He also wants Mandela's presidential pardon signed. Calvin and his men will surrender after Mandela is released in full public view. Calvin receives a phone call from Johann, but his demands have not yet been met. Johann says that it will take time for his request to be approved. Calvin grabs the American, orders him to take a trolley load of cash, then takes him outside. Brigadier Hans instructs Johann to eliminate them once they are outdoors, but Johann refuses because the black man carrying the trolley appears to be a hostage and not one of them. Calvin instructs the American to set fire to the money. Calvin walks closer to the media and shouts several times, "Free Nelson Mandela," while the money burns. The snipers want authorization to engage, but Johann does not respond because he is still negotiating. Calvin returns inside, but not before setting the tone outside with his chants for Nelson Mandela's release. Christine tries to persuade Calvin. Another hostage is accompanying her. According to Christine, the police see Mandela as the highest form of terrorist. Therefore, they are not going to release him. Calvin is not disheartened by this. He requests that they leave him alone. Aldo takes the bleeding pilot to the bathroom. The pilot demands that he be the first on the list when the hostages are released. He would otherwise tell Aldo's comrades that Aldo is the mole. He was the one who leaked the mission to the fuel depot. The pilot then threatens to reveal the location of Aldo's wife. Aldo snaps and stabs the pilot to death. Aldo intentionally strikes his head to make it appear as if the pilot attacked him. Calvin demands that the hostages be given food and water. In return, Johann requests that they free 2 captives. He wants one of them to be Christine without telling Calvin why. Christine decides to stay. The hostages are then freed. The bank manager gets his hands on a gun and kidnaps Aldo. There are gunshots, and Mbali is injured. Calvin manages to subdue the bank manager. As Calvin burns another load of money, Johann approaches him and shows him a pardon and statement of release signed by the Prime Minister. Since he wants to see Mandela released, Calvin is not convinced. Johann demands that he be allowed to look at everyone inside. Mandela will be released after he has confirmed that all captives have been secured. He lets the captain in, and he goes straight to Christine to persuade her to accompany him. Christine maintains her defiance. Calvin then requests that the officer go because he has seen what he came in for. As Johann is about to leave, he notices that the pilot is not there. Calvin requests that he go and not ask any further questions. Mbali sees that he has a revolver holstered on his ankle. When the officer confirms his name, she realizes Aldo is the mole. Aldo mentioned Johann's name even though no one had told him the officer's name. Aldo appeals for pardon as the authorities use his wife as a captive. Mbali then executes him. Brigadier Hans receives permission from the Prime Minister to move in. Johann considers this unacceptable, knowing that he was let go. He still feels that violence may be avoided. Christine exits the building to speak with Johann. She also uses the media to convey a message to her father. She claims that the hostage-takers are not criminals, but rather fight for freedom. A sniper fires at Calvin, but it instead hits Christine. She then dies. Johann calls Calvin to warn him that Hans has dispatched a SWAT unit to the house. It is no longer in his hands. After the call, Calvin pretends that the call comes from the Prime Minister and that Mandela is about to be released. He then tells the hostages that they are now free to go. At this point, all of the hostages have been released. Mbali and Calvin stay inside, unsure of what will happen next. Brigadier Hans then directs his men to advance. As the freedom fighters refuse to surrender, a firefight breaks out. They execute as many men as they can before retreating inside and into the vault. Hans demands that they hand over their weapons. This was their last chance. The officer then orders his men to prepare for another attack. Meanwhile, Calvin and Mbali pause to reload their weapons before launching another attack. They walk towards the main door in expectation of another attack. They are ready and willing to engage. Then there are gunshots. The film ends with the three men's bravery not going unnoticed, as their actions inspired what would later become the Free Nelson Mandela campaign. Mandela was soon released in February of 1990 to become the first black president of South Africa. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel to get notified whenever we publish the next recap. Till then, take care. See you next time.